What happens when a Hollywood megastar goes toe-to-toe with the queen of morning television and the animosity between them becomes so toxic that the security has to pull them apart? It was just 38 seconds into what was supposed to be another standard celebrity sit-down when the interview devolved into a full-blown PR crisis. Kelly Ripa sat poised in her seat, ready to lead as only the veteran anchor could. The studio was a blur of lights and buzz, and on the surface it looked perfect. But in the hypercharged world of live TV, the calm never lasts for long. How cool would you stay if a guest straight up insulted your entire career right to your face? It is right here that the tone starts to shift. "Welcome to the show," Kelly announced with her signature warm smile. "We are so thrilled to have you with us today." Megan tilted her head back and let her eyes drift around the studio with a clinical, judgmental gaze that felt more like an appraisal than a greeting. "Thanks for having me," she stated with the unmistakable air of someone doing the network a huge favor. Kelly, ever the consummate professional, didn't even blink. "Let's just dive into your incredible journey. We have certainly seen quite a transformation over the years." "Transformation?" Megan scoffed, raising an eyebrow with a meticulous movement. "I think the word you're searching for is evolution. I have always known precisely who I am. The world has just been a little slow to catch up." A collective murmur rippled through the audience, and even Kelly's smile began to tighten. After decades of this business, she had developed a sixth sense for danger, and she knew she was dealing with a powder keg right now. At what point would you have had enough? The seasoned journalist was about to find her limit. "Of course," Kelly replied smoothly. "Tell us what projects you are working on today." Megan let out a long, drawn-out sigh that was clearly meant to convey her extreme boredom and utter lack of interest in the topic. "Right now, I am working on several initiatives that are actually making a difference on this planet as opposed to simply peddling mindless entertainment. I am talking about impact, and it goes without saying that you of all people can understand the difference." Kelly's gaze was steady, her voice measured. "That is absolutely true. This program has supported so many charities over the years. We take real impact very seriously indeed." "Do you?" Megan countered, her voice laced with an unnerving contempt. "I am talking about making a mark on the world, actual global shifts, not trivial local endeavors." The temperature in the studio dropped like a rock. A collective gasp rose from the audience, and Kelly's co-host just sat there in complete shock. Did her guest just effectively dismiss years of dedicated work that had touched thousands of lives as insignificant local stuff? Kelly took a slow, deep breath. "Every person is equal, Megan, and so their struggle is equal. It is about to hit breaking point. The next question changes the room for good." "Well, sure," Megan drawled, waving a dismissive hand. "But there are levels to this. Some of us operate in entirely different arenas." For the first time since the interview began, Kelly's professionalism began to falter. What exactly are these arenas? Megan finally leaned forward, her expression turning stone cold. "Arenas where billions are watching your every move. Arenas where you can't speak freely without devastating consequences. Arenas where true power is located." "This program is viewed by millions of people on a daily basis." Kelly shot back, her voice gaining a hard edge. "And I assure you, by anyone's standards, that is a powerful position to hold." Megan actually let out a laugh, a sharp, brittle sound that seemed to echo in the sudden silence. "Millions, sweetheart. Billions of people tuned in to watch my wedding. That is real power." She really just called her sweetheart? Stick around for Kelly's response. The silence in the studio became deafening. Kelly sat up straighter and her entire being seemed to fill the room. "Let me just be clear for a moment. I am not your sweetheart. And if we want this interview to continue, you need to show this room some respect." Megan just stared her down, unperturbed. "Respect? Honey, I am giving you a ratings goldmine just for being here. Do you even know how many morning shows beg for just one segment from me? I decided to do your show out of the goodness of my heart." Kelly's jaw tightened. "Out of the goodness of your heart?" Megan chirped, blissfully unaware that she was setting fire to any potential bridge. "Let's be blunt. When was the last time you've had someone like me in your studio? Someone that truly matters in the grand scheme of the world?" In the booth, producers were frantically yelling for commercial break, but Kelly had already turned to face Megan. "Someone who matters? You seriously think you're the only one in this studio who matters?" The climax is moments away, culminating in the stage-rushing scene. "I think there are people who are in the world, and then there are people who report on what happens in the world on their morning shows." Megan shrugged. "No offense." "None taken and absolutely taken," Kelly snapped, her voice as firm as ever. "You have entered this studio, insulted my entire team, disregarded the meaningful work that we do on a daily basis and the only people we have ever helped. You are not displaying confidence. You are displaying a complete and utter lack of character. Perhaps you are simply not accustomed to being told the truth, Megan countered. Kelly chuckled, a sharp, humorless sound. The truth is that when you walk into someone's home, you do not disrespect them or those they work with. And most of all, you don't think that you're so much better than them that they should be doing you some kind of favor just for being on their set. Megan abruptly stood up, dragging her chair across the floor with a piercing shriek of metal on wood. I don't have to sit here and be lectured by you. As she attempted to make her exit, security officials were immediately present to intercept her. The interview had dissolved into utter chaos in less than a minute and would continue to be analyzed and debated for years to come. Attacked? Kelly remained seated and looked up, her calm more unsettling than any scream. I'm reacting to your behavior. If you think taking responsibility means you've been attacked, you might not be the worldly woman you think you are. Don't you have any idea who I am? Megan demanded, her perfectly sculpted composure finally cracking. I have a very clear idea, Kelly said, standing up now to match Megan eye to eye. You're a guest on my show who appears to have forgotten her manners. The audience leaned in, rapt. This was no longer an interview. It was a collision, a spectacle entirely out of control. The cameras continued rolling. No one dared say cut. Was this the end of a career or the start of a legendary TV moment? The interview had just erupted into an all-out war. This show is garbage, Megan spat. Just another reason to tune out while doing the dishes. I've spoken to world leaders. Then go speak to them again, Kelly stated flatly, because this interview is over. Megan looked stunned. What did you just say? I said this interview is over, Kelly repeated, her voice rising so every person in the room could hear. You are not going to disrespect me, my staff, or my audience. Please leave. You can't kick me off. Megan's face turned scarlet. Do you know what kind of backlash this will cause? Kelly took a step forward, her voice low and steady. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've weathered bigger storms than your antics. Now I'm asking you, for the last time, get off my stage. The air in the studio thickened with tension. Megan searched the faces of the crew for support but found only an impenetrable wall of silence. This is an outrage, Megan declared. I've never been treated this way before. Perhaps that's why it's happening now, Kelly said calmly. Perhaps it's time someone told you that fame doesn't excuse you from basic politeness. Megan darted her eyes around the room, desperate for someone to step in on her behalf. No one did. The camera crew appeared deeply invested in their shoes. As Megan started to speak again, her voice trembling, Kelly cut her off. Security, she announced, her voice resonating through the room. Would you escort our guest out? Security? Megan shrieked, a sound that made the audience flinch. You're calling security on me? Two uniformed security guards emerged from the wings, professional and unnervingly quiet. I'll leave on my own, Megan huffed, regaining a sliver of control. This has been an absolutely pathetic show, and I wouldn't grace it with my presence any longer anyway. The door's right there, Kelly indicated with a nod of her head. This is what happens when an exit goes terribly wrong. The viral moment that unfolded before everyone's eyes. Megan snatched up her purse, her hands shaking. You are going to regret this. Everyone will hear about how you treated me. Good, Kelly said evenly. Let everyone hear precisely how you came onto this show and behaved as though you were too important for everyone present. I am too important for this, Megan yelled, her last vestiges of composure crumbling. This cheap set, this common program. A collective gasp swept through the audience, some hands flying to mouths. Kelly's face hardened. Out. Now. Gladly, Megan snapped, turning on her heel so quickly that her arm knocked against the small table between the chairs. A mug of dark coffee tipped over, crashing to the floor in 100 pieces. The liquid spread like a dark stain across the pristine carpet. Kelly looked down at the mess. Wonderful, she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. With the guest gone, Kelly prepared for her final, impactful move, a display of true leadership. Without a backward glance, Megan stormed toward the exit, flanked by the two security guards. The heavy studio doors slammed shut behind her, the sound reverberating through the stunned silence. Kelly remained still for a moment, taking in the shattered porcelain and the empty chair. Then she turned her gaze to the camera. Well, she said, a hint of a smile touching her lips despite the pandemonium. That was interesting. The audience exploded. Not with cheers, but with the audible sigh of a world collectively processing what they had just witnessed. They stared at each other, dumbfounded. Kelly smoothly navigated around the broken mug and returned to her mark. "We'll be taking a short break," she announced to the camera. "We'll tidy up this mess and return shortly with the rest of our program." She held her gaze on the lens for a moment longer before the cut. "And I have one last thing to say. I've interviewed hundreds of guests on this show, celebrities, politicians, and ordinary people performing extraordinary feats. Most of them are gracious, kind, and understand a simple truth. Treating people with respect isn't optional." Her eyes never wavered. It's the foundation of basic human decency. No one is too famous or too powerful to ignore that. How you treat people when you think no one's looking, how you treat the crew, the production assistants, anyone you deem beneath you, that's the real measure of who you are. The studio fell into a reverent silence as the screen faded to black, etching an unforgettable moment into the annals of television history. The applause wasn't so much of a gradual build as it was a spontaneous eruption. People leaped out of their seats as a guttural, cathartic wave swept the room, the studio transforming into a wall of sound. Kelly raised her hands in a gentle motion, a soft plea for quiet, her face placid but her eyes filled with genuine emotion. "Thank you," she said, her voice calm and steady. "And I really mean that, but we have a show to produce. Let's clear this up and get back on track." As the cameras faded to black, a frantic but organized flurry took over the studio. Producers, mouths to phones, rushed through the area while assistants huddled in tight circles, whispering furiously. A stagehand quickly emerged, holding a broom to sweep up the shattered mug and gently dabbing at the spilled coffee with an absorbent towel. Kelly's makeup artist swooped in for quick touch-ups, but Kelly seemed almost oblivious. Was the fallout worth standing her ground? Kelly was about to find out what that actually looked like behind the scenes. "Are you all right?" her co-host asked, walking up to her and standing a respectful distance away. "I'm fine," Kelly replied. She paused for a moment, then added, her voice lower now. "Actually, I'm more than fine. I'm just sick of letting bad behavior slide, simply because the perpetrator is famous." "She's likely going to trash you," her co-host warned. Kelly gave a slight shrug. "Let her. The truth is what the truth is. Everyone in this room knows exactly what happened." The show came back from break, and just as she had promised, Kelly was moving forward. She sat with a chef training underserved children in culinary arts, a teacher raising money for a community-led literacy program, and a stand-up comedian that had the audience roaring with laughter. It was the same business as usual they had been planning, but the mood was different now. It was sharper, electric, buzzing with the energy of people who had just witnessed an unfiltered reality. Some moments were so good they had to happen whether they were in the script or not. This one, the audience was clearly not going to let go. During a commercial break, a woman in the audience raised her hand. "Kelly, could I just say, as a 5-year viewer of tapings, that I've never been more proud to be in this audience. You had the guts to stand up for yourself." Kelly smiled warmly. "Thank you. Though frankly, standing up for oneself should be the expectation, not an act of bravery. It's called having basic human decency." "She was so rude to you," someone else called out. "I can't believe what I was hearing." "Some people forget that there are real people in front of the cameras," Kelly stated simply. "They get so caught up in themselves they forget how to speak civilly." Her co-host shook her head. "The fact that she dismissed your work with charity organizations because it wasn't global enough? How awful." "Every kind gesture has the potential to create a domino effect," Kelly countered. "And helping even one person is a victory. It doesn't matter if you're helping 10 people or 10,000. If you made one person's day better, you did something of consequence." The show continued on its set path, but the air of electricity was still present. The unscripted truth had been presented. At the end of the taping, Kelly thanked the audience. "Thank you all for joining us today. I know that was a departure from our usual broadcast." "It was better," a voice shouted from the back, met with a roar of agreement. Kelly beamed. "Well, I'm glad someone enjoyed it, but thank you, truly. And remember to treat everyone you meet with kindness. It's an all-around good practice, and quite frankly, much easier to manage than anger." As the audience shuffled out, phones were already in hand. The whispers quickly turned into texts, and videos from the audience began flooding the internet, while back at the studio, Kelly finally let out a sigh and walked to her dressing room. Kicking off her heels and sinking into a plush chair, she wondered how her career might shift. A 30-year career could change drastically in 30 seconds, right? A rap on the door announced the arrival of her producer, a look of mingled respect and surprise on his face. "Well, he said, searching for the right word. That was certainly an interesting moment. I know, Kelly said quietly. Maybe I should have reacted differently. No, he said firmly, his eyes locking with hers. That was exactly what needed to happen. She was offensive, and you stood your ground. That's who you are. The network is going to have a panic attack, Kelly predicted. Let them, the producer responded. They'll see the ratings, they'll see the buzz. This is going to be the episode people remember us for. He was right. Within minutes, shaky audience-recorded footage began surfacing. Social media was already ablaze with controversy before the official recording even dropped. But sitting alone in her dressing room, none of that seemed to matter. Kelly leaned her head back against the chair, rubbing her temples. Was I too hard on her? She asked. It was a small question, human and genuine. The producer settled into a chair opposite her. Kelly, he said after a long moment, I've worked with you for 15 years. I've seen you handle countless rude guests. Today, however, was the first time I saw a rude guest encounter someone they couldn't walk all over. You go out of your way for everyone's comfort. You are patient with the nervous ones, kind to the emotional ones, and professional even when they arrive late, unprepared, or utterly out of their element. He leaned forward. But what I witnessed this afternoon was someone who came onto your stage intending to make herself feel like more by making you feel less. And you did not let that happen. That is not unkindness, Kelly. That is self-respect. Kelly released a small sigh and a weak smile. Once she called me sweetheart with that undertone. I know, the producer interrupted softly. I saw your face then, and I knew that everything had changed. She was so dismissive, as though I were a starstruck groupie, not someone who has been doing this for longer than she's been famous. You have earned respect and you deserve it. Never allow yourself to feel guilty for expecting common human decency. Kelly nodded, the knot in her chest easing, and her stance becoming more grounded. Okay, she said softly, let's see what's next. What's next would take the world of entertainment by storm for days, but for the time being, the storm was confined within the internal. What's next would indeed make headlines, but for now, in her private dressing room, alone, Kelly Ripa felt a surge of something she had not felt in years. Pride. True pride in setting a boundary, saying enough is enough, and that no amount of global influence or fame will ever make it okay to treat someone without basic human kindness. The broken coffee mug had long since been swept away, the stage cleaned, and the lights reset. But the fallout from those 38 seconds from the first dismissive remark would stretch on far longer than anyone could have anticipated. This was not merely a clip, it was a cultural shift. The world was watching, and people were taking sides. It was the exact moment when things truly turned. The moment when a simple interview would transform into a cultural benchmark. It was the moment that a voice finally articulated what so many people had been thinking, that your fame does not provide you with immunity to be cruel, that respect is not an option, that you receive it in turn, as you give it. Ultimately, we are all just people who work hard, love hard, and hope to be treated kindly. Kelly looked in the mirror, brushed her hair back, and smiled. Tomorrow there would be phone calls, meetings, press, and damage control. But that night, Kelly was going home with her head held high, knowing that she had done the right thing. Because ultimately, when all is said and done, character is the only thing that lasts in this crazy, flashing world of fame.